Hello, hello. Hi there, folks. It's Ed here with our 3 o'clock live stream. And we're going to have a look at some skills and tips. Yeah. I thought I'll have a look at scales, particularly for piano in this episode. But some of these might apply to other instruments. I don't know. But since I'm a piano tutor, I'm going to be looking at piano today. So I will zoom around to the piano to show you some of these ones, right? Let's just see if we can get it turned around towards the piano. Right. So basically, most people start around D. Yeah. Let's zoom in a wee bit here. Most of the time, you're starting on piano at middle C, which I will say is kind of in the middle of the piano, roughly near the middle of the piano. You're trying to find these two black keys, and then beside them is your middle C. That's usually where you start with your thumb on middle C. Yeah. And those first three notes are usually your first three notes as you play. Now, before long, you'll be developing that into a full octave of a scale, yeah? And that is a C major scale. That one there. So starting from, yeah? And once you get the hang of going up the way, then you're going back down the way. Now, the key finger in a lot of scales is the middle one, the tallest finger, right? So that's usually where you switch sides, usually where you switch your scales. You're moving from thumb to middle, then thumb, and in this case, we're finished with pinky. And you go to thumb, then you go to middle. Okay, so as you're putting a scale together on piano, your middle finger is probably your most important one, just as well as the tall one, yeah? And that doesn't apply only to right, it's also left. Your middle finger is important as well, because on the left hand, your middle's the one that switches over. Now, the thing about that on both hands is they always happen to be in the same place. I often say to people I'm teaching, look, the middle finger's right in the middle of both hands, even if they're against each other. The thumb and the pinky are at each side, the other two fingers, and then the middles are always in the same place. So for that reason, key. So middles match, that's the most common thing with your basic scales, yeah. And that's often what I'm saying to pupils, look for your middles and match them. Don't worry about all the other fingers, as long as you can get the middles matching, you'll end up at the right place, usually. Okay, so that applies to C major. Let's have a look at some of the scales that benefit from this matching middles system. Now, C major is probably your most common one for starters. But you know what? It's going to apply to G and D and A and E on the sharp side. And actually, that would be major and minor. Okay, so suddenly you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 scales. 10 scales, all with the same pattern, where middles match. And if you know that right at the start, wow, there you go, you can play 10 scales. As long as you know where the sharps go, in this case, these are kind of sharp based on the majors, they've got some flats on the minors. But in general terms, that's the key ingredient, I believe, especially when you're putting hands together. There it is, just for info. So you got your C, you got your D, you got E. I'm going to skip F at the moment. You got G. Oops, I forgot my sharp. You've got A major. Okay, so there's all the majors with the middles matching. And I've got videos for every one individually, so you can go and have a look for them if you want to get the absolute details. We're just looking at skills today. But they all match on middle. If we turn them all minor, C minor, the middles are matching on flats. What about G minor? Middles also match on flats. So middles match on flats. And these are a couple of good minors to get into. And the other one's D minor, E minor. And what have we not done? A minor. Missed the skip. But in these cases also the middles match. There you go. Now for this demo I'm playing the scales a little bit quicker than usual. When you're playing scales as a practice, you should be going slow and steady, nice and smooth. Yeah, you should be playing them equally, so every note has the same volume and the same speed and the same articulation. Okay, so we're done with this one. Yeah, middles match, that's the key ingredient. So I'm going to move on to think about how we practice scales. Okay, because too often I hear people play scales like this. And that's not really doing anybody any good, to be honest. You're looking for fluency, evenness, smoothness, and lightness, I would say, generally. Maybe a little bit louder than that, actually. People often say you want to play securely, so you're playing quite smoothly, steadily, with the same volume and the same speed for all the notes. So I would say consistent, that's a good word. Consistent speed, volume, and articulation. That's how you play it. I'll give you some examples of doing the opposite. Okay, speed. Here's examples of what not to do, okay? So don't take these out of context. Speed. Yeah, so people are usually good at the first three notes. You maybe do the first three, okay. And then you're like, oh, what happens next? So it'd be far better to have a steady speed. Yeah. Far better to be steady rather than fast and then slow, and then fast and then slow. So you're looking for a consistent speed, yeah? You're also looking for consistent volume. So you don't want to be, what's this one again? Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. Louder. Ah, yeah, that's it. You want to be keeping the volume, the loudness, the same as you play your scale. So before you start, good tip is to think, what is this scale? What is it going to be? What are the patterns of the notes and the keys? Before you start and go, yeah, okay. Play away straight away, so you're not kind of catching up with yourself halfway through. So keep the volume the same, articulation the same. Okay, often when beginners start out, they do this. That's very nice if you want to play legato. It's maybe a bit too legato. Sometimes I say if they're doing too much holding, I would say let go of it and put gaps in, almost staccato like. Maybe that's a bit too much staccato. Then you join them back up together. Yeah, so making them joined up a bit more. But don't be like... Generally, you want to keep that articulation pretty similar for each one, yeah? So speed, volume, articulation, depending on which scale. Now, when you're working on different scales, let's have a look at some different scales. So you've got that constant speed, consistent volume, and pretty similar articulations, yeah? Now, of course, you can practice these kind of things on all kinds of pieces. It doesn't just have to be scales. In fact, we might look at a bit of arpeggios as well, because they're kind of connected to scales. Where scales are steps, yeah, they're steps. Arpeggios are often, skips, usually. If you think about it, the first three notes of an arpeggio are skips. If I can play them. So in this case, C, C, E, G, and if you're playing it, the next octave is also 1, 2, 3. So if you've got that finger shape, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and pinky when you're finishing. I often say to people to try and avoid this. You don't want to be twisting, really. I think you can get the reach without twisting. I'm a fan of doing it by timing rather than twisting, okay? And even better if you can play it without looking. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm looking at your screen, so I'm not really looking at the piano, but it probably would be better if I did. Anyway, if you're facing the piano, yeah, try and look at it. So you're looking for evenness, even in the arpeggios, yeah. So when you're skipping instead of stepping, you still want to be a consistent tempo, volume, and articulation. In fact, I've got a video that's specially about arpeggios, so you can go and have a look at that one and just go through them quickly, all the different scales and shapes. With arpeggios, there are also some patterns that come into play. Now, with scales, we said middles match all the time. In arpeggio mode, you've kind of got various options. You've got all white. Yeah, that's kind of like this pattern. I like to think of the shapes or the patterns of the notes. Dot, dot, dot. That'll become a pattern in a minute. You've got the triangle ones, two ways. And these might be different depending on what key you're in. So one's like this, dot, dot, dot. Yeah. And then the other one will be going the other way. What do I mean by the triangles? You probably guessed already. For example, D major. So the triangles are referring to the shape of the notes, yeah. D, F sharp, A. So you've got a skip with a sharp in the middle. It also applies to E major, F minor, G minor, A major, and what else have we got? C minor. There we go. So all these ones have that triangle that way. And if you have the triangle upside down, we're starting on a black key and going to a white and then back to black. And this one applies to, for example, E flat major. What else have we got? A flat major, D flat major, probably other ones. F sharp minor, and that's C sharp minor. Go. So these are the upside down triangles. And once you cover all 6 majors and minors, 6 arpeggios all white, you've probably got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you've got 6 of each. So 6 all white, 6 triangled, and how many this way? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 going that way. Okay. But that covers the majority of arpeggios. So once you get those patterns working for arpeggios, you can literally transpose them around. It's easier to transpose an arpeggio than it is a scale, to be honest, once you get that little shape. Okay, so there's some ideas and things to think about scales and arpeggios. And if you're a piano player, I would suggest scales are pretty important just because it's laid out like a zebra crossing. There you go. If you can find your way around the keyboard without looking at it, as I say, often if you can play without looking at the piano, you can play much better because you're not relying on which keys you're looking at. It also allows you to look up at your sheet music if you're working from that, or if you're doing something else, you can play from the keys. And the scales are a key to getting geography and navigation around the piano. And you can find your way around without looking at them. And that's largely based on how well you know your scales. Okay. What else have we got? I don't know if we've got any comments coming in. I don't see any, so I'm getting ready to round up on the scales side. Like I said earlier, I've got plenty of videos about scales, like one for every single major and every harmonic minor. I've not done the melodics actually. That's probably worth a look into at some point. There is a video about the difference between minor, harmonic and melodic, so you can look at that as well. But yeah, I'll be starting to take suggestions for the Friday topic. And at the moment, we're looking at tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to have listening. So tomorrow, we're going to be having a listening to probably grade 3, 4, 5, etc. The skills for listening tomorrow, yeah, and what you can improve on in that department. And Friday is basically open to your suggestions. Or if I don't get any suggestions, I'll just make up something. Maybe playing by ear or something, I don't know. That could be a possible. In the meantime, if we've got no questions, I don't see any questions there. So I think we'll round up with that. So finally, just to summarize on scales, keep a consistent speed, consistent volume, consistent articulation, play evenly and smoothly. That's the key to it. And for many scales that you'll be starting with as a beginner, the middles match. So those fingers are going to be playing at the same time. Okay, but I'll just sign off by saying, hope you enjoyed and have fun with the music. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.